Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hearthstone Showdown in the Badlands reveals. Up now we have Warlock. In case you didn't see my message, I'm aware half the Hunters cards have come out. The other half have been delayed to next week though, so I'm going to do those all as one next week because I think you need to see the full package to really determine if some of these cards, going to be worth playing or not. So here we're going to do the Warlock one first. And Warlock has got some interesting packages. It's really two packages. They have a very toxic build and they have an excavate build as well. First though, we'll go with the toxic build. We have the 2-mana 3/2 disposal assistant. Battlecry and Death Rattle put a barrel of sludge on the bottom of your deck. The barrel of sludge we saw in the neutral reveal is a 2-mana fell spell. If it's played, discarded or destroyed, deal 3 damage to the lowest health enemy. So we saw this as Trap Mechanic. Trap Mechanic put the barrel of sludge into your hand, and this is going to be a theme we see through the Warlock package. And I think this package is a little bit confused, to be honest with you. That some of the cards put sludges on the bottom of your deck, some of them put them in your hand. Now, obviously putting the cards on the bottom of your deck, because, let's be honest, barrel of sludge, unless you're discarding it or destroying it in some way, is a bad card. 2 mana for 3 damage to the lowest health enemy, you don't get to target it, is really bad value. So putting, some cards on the bottom of your deck, that's fine, whatever. You're probably not going to get to the bottom of your deck unless you're playing like a control matchup and you're going for the long game. However, there is a reason you're putting them on the bottom of the deck, and we're going to show that later, because you're not actually getting a particularly good card for those reasons. You're putting 2 bad cards into your deck, and you're only getting a 3/2 out of it. What gives? Just as a reminder as well, Mark of Scorn, which did see play in Spell Demon Hunter, is a 2-mana draw a card, so Barrel Sludge doesn't have this, but also does 3 damage to the lowest health enemy. So it's not without reason the Barrel Sludge can be good, but you kind of want, a bit more of a payoff for it. Or you want a lot of stuff that goes to the face. We also have Sludge on Wheels, the 3-mana 1/5 rush card. Whenever it takes damage, you get a barrel of sludge, and 1 goes into the bottom of your deck. So this puts 1 in your hand, 1 on the bottom of your deck. If, having lots of sludge was a good thing, spoilers, there are cards that use these sludges, otherwise I wouldn't be talking about this. You might want to run something like Defile. I don't think this is necessarily the best option. In fact, I think it's going to be a pretty bad option, but if you want to get this to get hit 5 times, you want 1 damage over and over again, Defile would be a nice way of doing it. What I think Sludge on Wheels will be done, and what I think this deck will end up being, is some sort of tempo-y, just a tempo-y deck where you're aggressively playing minions. So you're going to hit someone with the Sludge on Wheels, that gives you 1 barrel, and then they're going to hit it back, and you're going to get 2. So on average, you're going to get 2 in your hand, 2 on the bottom of the deck. Now, why are we putting all the sludge on the bottom of the deck? Well, we have the Waste Remover. 4 mana, 7/7. I'll say that again. He's a 4 mana, 7/7. At the end of your turn, destroy the bottom 3 cards of your deck. He's also a demon, if that matters. There's actually not a lot of demon tag spells right now, weirdly, in Warlock. But maybe in the future. Immediately when I saw this card, Fel Reaver came to mind. So Fel Reaver saw a little bit of play in aggressive decks way back when. It was a 5 mana 8/8, but whenever your opponent played a card, you remove the top 3 cards of your deck. Nowadays, Fel Reaver would probably see 0 play, because a lot of decks can play Druid, for example, can play many, many cards per turn. It wouldn't be unreasonable to mill like 15 cards from your opponent's deck. Admittedly, if you're playing an aggro deck as Fel Reaver went into, who cares if you have, 30 cards in your deck or 15 cards in your deck? If you get to the point where you're playing with the last 15, you've probably lost, right? And I see the same thing for Waste Remover. Waste Remover is obviously a pretty big downside if it gets stuck on the board, but you have to kill this thing. It's a 7/7. You can't just leave it there. It's going to chunk you down. Sure, some classes might be able to freeze it, but you have to deal with this thing. And the effect won't be bad if you're putting sludges on the bottom of the deck. Because then, not only are you playing your Waste Remover, the 4 mana 7/7, if you've got 3 sludges at the bottom of your deck, you're then doing 9 total damage split up in 3 ways to lowest health enemies. That's most likely the opponent's minions. So you're going to play this Waste Remover, and it might board clear for you at turn 4. Also, if you're in the market for running a Forge of Wills, I'm actually not sure you will run Forge of Wills in this Toxic deck, but in case you are, if you Forge and then into Waste Remover, that is, well, over the 2 turns, 7 mana, 14/14 in stats by turn 4. That is a lot of tempo. A lot of tempo, and not a lot of decks will be able to deal with that. It might actually be that you play Waste Remover in an aggro deck and don't worry about the barrels of sludges, because honestly, they're not that great. Instead, Forge of Wills into Waste Remover, 14/14 stats in turn 4, and your opponent is big sad. Now, I mentioned, why would you not put the sludge in the bottom of your deck? Well, if I tap back, Disposal Assistant is on turn 2. It's going to put 2 sludges on the bottom of your deck. Sludge on Wheels on 3 is possibly going to put 1, possibly put 2 on the bottom of your deck. And then you'd have to ramp that into Waste Remover. I think it's just too perfect of a situation. It's not going to happen that often. And these are the only things that put sludges into your bottom of your deck. And even then, you might want more aggressive cards, right, than a 1/5. That's not particularly aggressively statted. Disposal Assistant is more aggressively statted. You might put the Disposal Assistant in there just to protect a bit of your deck. And I say protect a bit of your deck, it's probably going to be just for the damage to clear your opponent's board. But yeah, I think there could be some sort of zoo aggro Warlock that comes out of this with Waste Remover. There's also another card that looks at the bottom of your deck. This is Fracking, the 1 mana spell. You look at the bottom 3 cards of your deck, draw one and destroy the others. Again, obviously this is good with Barrel of Sludge. If you hit one of them, it's Mark of Scorn for 1 less mana. Mark of Scorn, again, I did see play in the Spell Demon Hunter deck. I should have also mentioned, and I've not put this card on the screen, this works with Silvermoon Arcanist as well, because it's not targetable, so you could get these to do 5 damage instead. But 1 mana, draw 1 card, I'm not sure about it. And also, I think it's just better to run it aggressive, mill cards from the bottom of your deck, and just try and overwhelm your opponent quickly, rather than going into a longer, more drawn-out game and trying to make sure that the sludge is on the bottom of the deck for you to frack. I don't think that's going to be the winner's choice. And then we get to, another part of the deck. So this is cards that are putting sludge into your hand and playing with the sludge in your hand. We have the 4 mana 2/6 legendary, Popgar the Putrid. Your fell spells cost 1 less, have lifesteal, and you have a battle cry of get 2 barrels of sludge. Just in case you can't remember, the barrels of sludge were 2 mana, 3 health, 3 damage to the lowest enemy. They were fell spells, so these become 1 cost instead. Do I think it's worth playing a 1 mana spell that does 3 damage to the lowest health enemy so you don't target it, and has lifesteal? Maybe, but it's borderline, right? Bearing in mind, Mage had Frostblast, which, they did use, which was targeted and froze. I think this is a little bit weaker than that, so I think you'd still be looking to discard these cards. I also had a look through the Warlock library. There is 1 fell spell currently. There is actually another one which I'll show later, but it's not very good with this anyway. 1 fell spell that does damage to enemies, and that's Crescendo, and I think this is where Popgar might actually see play. I don't think it will be in a sludge deck, but he might go into Fatigue Imps, where if you can put Popgar onto the board, your Crescendo becomes 1 cost. So for 5 mana, you can do your fatigue damage, whatever that's going to be, maybe let's say on average 3 or 4 damage. If your opponent's got a big board, that's going to heal you up for, 4 for each minion. That's a big heal. It's kind of akin to the, oh god, what's it called now? The Demon Hunter one where it did a 1 mana spell with Arcanist, just to fully heal you up again. So I could definitely see this aggressive fatigue imp kind of lineup, or just the imp lineup. And that if you're getting low, you just pop out a Popgar and a Crescendo, and you're back to full health again. Just as a reminder as well, Tron Mechanic, which was in the neutrals, puts a sludge in your hand as well. Now we get to the discardy cards. So this is I think, designed for the sludges in your hand. We have Trolley Problem, which we did actually show off in the neutral reveal, and we now have a good idea how strong this card is. I mean, this card is strong anyway, to be honest with you. It's a 3 mana, discard your lowest cost spell, summon 2/3/3 trump cards with Rush. Quick draw, don't discard. Obviously, 3 mana for 6/6 in stats that rushes is very good. And if you're discarding your lowest cost spell and it is a barrel of sludge, then you're also doing 3 damage to the lowest health enemy, which isn't a downside. You might even argue that the quick draw effect is not that good. You want to discard the sludges because they're not worth playing. So I think if this sludge toxic build does work, Trolley Problem will go into that deck. Also, other cards, to discard these sludges, because I think Trolley Problem was the only revealed discarder. I'm trying to remember now, but I think it was. Lakari Fellhound discards your lowest cost cards as well, 2 lowest cost cards. Not just spells, though, so you're probably going to hit the sludges. You might also hit, the toxic mechanic guy. But that's fine, it's still 4 mana, 3/8 in stats. A Disciple of Sagarius, which basically sees 0 play, has discarded a spell to summon 2 3/2 imps. Again, it's not that unreasonable for this deck if you run it tempo-like. Then Barrel of Sludge might be your only spell in your hand. It might be a guaranteed discard on the sludge. And you're getting, 2 3/2 imps, a 3/3, and you're doing damage. Okay, I can see that. Obviously, as a downside, if you have Trolley Problem in your hand as well, you might discard the Trolley Problem, and then you will cry Rivers of Tears, because Trolley Problem is very good. Then even less specific, Savage Yimajar is just discard 2 cards. It's a 5 mana 7/7 with Rush, though. Again, you may want to let Jesus take the wheel and just pray that you hit the sludges. If you can run enough sludge in your hand, the probability increases that you're going to hit sludge. Is that going to happen, though? No, you're going to hit your most important cards. Same with Rin. Taunt, Death Rattle. Both players draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, and destroy the top 2 cards of the deck. Not great, but again, it's discarding from your hand. Tome Tampering discards your entire hand. So you might be going like, oh, that's great with the sludges. And yet it is pretty good with the hand sludge package to discard all the sludges in your hand, do a big chunk of damage, and then 1 cost variants go into your deck for later discarding. However, it shuffles your deck, which makes Waste Remover a little bit worse. But again, you might want to risk that. Like, if you're if you're going to destroy 3 cards and they're actually in your deck, and you're going pretty tempo-y, maybe Tome Tampering is going to be good enough regardless. And then the final 2, we have Winged Welding, which just won't ever come off, so it's discard your highest cost card. So perhaps if you emptied all of your hand, you can discard a 2 mana Barrel of Sludge and do 2 to all. Not worth it, but I just wanted to put it in there for completion. And Deathwing the Destroyer, if you're feeling very, very spicy and you want to get to the very, very late game. Destroy all of the minions, discard a card for each card destroyed. You can let Jesus take the wheel, destroy the board, and then the sludges will all go to the face. I could see some people memeing with that as like a last resort. In terms of cards to be discarded as well, other than the sludges, Furnace Fuel was announced, a 4 mana fire spell. When this card is played or discarded or destroyed, draw 2 cards. So if this somehow finds its way to the bottom of the deck, you still get the 2 card draw, which is pretty nice. Obviously, you don't want to play this card. 4 mana for drawing 2 cards is pretty bad value. But if you can get it on top of a discard effect, then obviously that is fantastic. In terms of other cards to be discarded, obviously we have the Barrel of Sludge that we've been talking about. Walking Dead is a minion. If you discard it, you summon it. That's reasonable value. And then for other spells, we have Soul Barrage that does 6 damage, randomly split amongst all enemies, And Suffocating Shadows, which destroys a random enemy minion. Now we're getting to the meat of it. So this is like the whole toxic package. You've got 4 cards that put stuff into your hand, 3 that put it onto the bottom of the deck or work with stuff on the bottom of the deck, and then Sludge on Wheels, which does both. And I've got a problem with kind of both sides. I don't think the left side, the stuff that puts stuff into your hands, is going to work. I don't think there's enough ways to guarantee that you're going to discard the waste. Really, only Trolley Problem is a near guarantee that it's going to hit a waste, being a low-cost spell. You're probably not going to run any one-drop spells. I just don't think it's going to be it. And then the stuff that puts stuff on the bottom of your deck has some issues, namely Steam Cleaner. He is roaming around ranked right now because people run play Death Knight, and Steam Cleaner is the nightmare for that deck. So unfortunately, this is going to get caught in the crossfire, I think. Also, anything that shuffles your deck is going to make this worse, right? Because then you're going to be destroying your cards. It's going to put sludges around your deck, and as I alluded to before, if you draw a sludge that is a below average card, it's not a good card, so you're kind of getting a dead draw on it. And then overall, I just think this is going to be really slow, and if your opponent just plays very wide, then you might be doing, like, 3 damage to a 1/1 token. That's not worth it. You can't control it. It goes to the lowest health minion, so your opponent can play around these effects. That being said, I think the most likely way this deck will see some play, I think you might see some decks running aggressive, like 1s, 2s, 3s. Then you play the Waste Remover. It doesn't matter if you're destroying the back end of your deck, that's fine. And then we'll just go from there. You might even play some of the discard package. Maybe the Trolley, the Furnace as well, because if that gets destroyed by Waste Remover, you get a free draw 2 cards. Trolley gets you another 6 damage. And then, who knows, maybe at the very end of it all, you throw Deathwing out and pray if you get to 10. I could see that aggressive deck maybe working. And then the other one that, sorry, I should have mentioned towards that, I could see Pop Guard going into a Fatigue Imp deck for a big heal. But the whole package together, I might try it on release, but I'm not convinced by it. And I think there's actually better stuff, even in Warlock, out there right now. Then we go to the other package, and this is the one I think is the most exciting for Warlock. This is the Excavation package. We have Smokestack, the 1-mana Fell spell, deals 1 damage to a minion. So Pop Guard would actually, heal for 1. Not very good. If it dies, you excavate a treasure. Now, I'm sure anyone that has been a long-time player of Hearthstone can immediately see this is basically Mortal Coil. Mortal Coil, if you killed a minion with the 1 damage, you drew a card. This gives you a treasure. A treasure you can see is like drawing a card. I'd say at the tier 3 and especially the tier 4, we'll go to that in a moment. This is better than drawing a card because the card you'll excavate is better than the average card that will be in your deck. Does Mortal Coil see play? A little bit of play. Where I think Smokestack will see some play though, or at least what card you'll want to put with your Smokestack, is something like Lady Darkvein. I don't think you're going to rely on your opponent to have 1 health minions. You're going to play Lady Darkvein, and spoilers, I think this will go into an Abyssal Curse deck. You'll put Darkvein, she'll put 2/1 shades on it, you'll Smokestack your own shade, that will proc your Smokestack. Darkvein will release a spell, ideally it's going to be the Abyssal Wave or something, and you're going to put a bunch of curses into your opponent's hand, and you're going to be big happy, and do a board clear as well. A little board clear. I think sometimes people in the Abyssal Curse deck do run Mortal Coil still to proc the Dark Veins. Other Excavate card for Warlock. 4-mana 4/5 Mech Demon Moag Drillfist has Taunt. Death Rattle, Excavate a treasure. There's not a lot to say about this. It's a pretty average card. Again, it depends on how good the Excavation package is, whether or not you would use this. Spoilers, I think it's really good. The payoff at least. So you will run this card even though I think it's below average. I also think you're going to run the 2 neutral ones as well. I've shown here Burrow Buster because this is actually a mech as well as Moab Drillfist. So you might run Drone Deconstructor in this deck as well. Because the Sparkbot, you might get lucky, you might get Reborn, you might get Rush as well, so the Drillfist can, push 4 damage, or 5 damage even, faster. I wouldn't be super surprised by that type of thing. Now, what are the payoffs for excavating? Well, we have Jerry! 7-mana 4/4 Tram Conductor Jerry, Battlecry. If you've excavated twice, summon 6 3/3 Tram cards with Rush. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This is 7 mana for 22 in stats. That's bonkers. And 18 of those damage split up in 3 ways is fast. So you could see Jerry as a board control card. You can see it as, oh shit, your opponent has to deal with this card, otherwise they lose. And we've had precedence of this card before. Sociologist Militia, the dual class card between Warlock and Demon Hunter, which for every soul fragment in your deck summoned a 3/3 soul with Rush. So very similar to the Tram cards. It had 1 more base stat on itself. Oh, sorry, it had 1 on both, so 5/5, not a 4/4. However, its condition was kind of harder to activate. It's more reasonable to activate twice, and then its effect is locked in. Soul Geologist, you needed to have Soul Fragments in your deck, which were cards that, when you drew them, you gained 2 health automatically. You have to play them. So you're always at the... You're always at the dangerous hands of RNG when you're playing Soul Fragment decks. Because if you just drew all your Soul Fragments early, then Militia would kind of suck. You might only get like 2 Souls with Rushes. Sometimes though, you'll get all 6 of them, fill your board. Irrespective of this RNG though, Soul Geologist Militia saw a lot of play in, especially the Demon Hunter side of things, the Soul Demon Hunter deck. And you did see some play in Control Demon Hunter, which I think ran a bit of the Soul package. So I think Tram Conductor Jerry will definitely go into this Excavation deck, and I think it will be a thing. And why do I think it's going to be a thing? Here's the treasure for Warlock, the Tier 4 Excavation. 4 mana 5/5. It's also an elemental beast like the Death Knight one, funnily enough. The Azurite Snake. Battlecry. Your hero steals 10 health from the enemy hero. I just want to make this clear. It steals the health. It's not do 10 damage lifesteal. You're stealing their God-given health. So if you had 30 health at the start of the game, boo-hoo, you have 20 now. And that is your max health. And if you started with 30, which I think you will do for the Excavation deck, you have 40 now. Lovely. It keeps you alive for longer, makes your opponent die quicker. You love to see it. Now, why do I think this card and the Excavation package will be pretty good? Well, hey, look, Saloon Brewmaster and Youthful Brewmaster, bounce cards. What if you bounce this snake back to your hand and play it again? Well, your opponent loses another 10 health. Hey, what if you do it again? Your opponent dies. That's right, if you do this 3 times in a 30 health deck, they're dead. That's quick maths for you. I think that is very reasonable. I think it's super, super scary, and it's not got a lot of counterplay to it right now, because there's actually not that many good hand disruption options. And I definitely think if this becomes a thing, everyone will be running all the hand disruption they possibly can to counteract this. Also, just as a note for this, you might be laughing in Warrior Land going, ha 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 ha, I gain 50 armor per game. This will go under your armor. It's stealing their health. It will not go into the armor first. So if you get hit 3 or 4, if I guess you're running a Renethor deck, which you'll probably be doing now, you die. It doesn't matter if you're at like 50 armor. It doesn't matter if you're at 100 armor. It doesn't matter if you're at 10,000 armor. You will die to this fucking little snake. He will kill you. And this also then gets around to why the rest of the deck that I think it will work with. I think you'll run the Curse package with this, potentially. It might just be seen as a combo. You might literally just run cards that keep you alive until you can bounce these snakes back to your hand. Oh, I also forgot Zola as well. Zola will work with this. The Abyssal Wave, the Curses. So they were really strong in Hybrid Imps, if you remember back like 2 sets. And the thing that really killed off the deck, it still sees some play on the ladder, but not too much, was Bran rotating out, which stopped you from giving them 2 curses with your Battlecry minions, or sometimes like, you know, an additional 2 curses on top of what you would also do if you played 2 of them in a turn. The Azurite Snake changes the game, literally just changes it, because your reach no longer is like 30 damage, it is 20 damage, which is kind of equivalent to having, you know, 2 more Abyssal Curses. So I could easily see the Azurite Snake going into the Abyssal Wave deck, and rather than just bouncing the snake back, you know, 3 or 4 times and relying on that, even if you bounce it back 1 time, and then don't get to play it again, you've still pulled the health down to 20, which means the Abyssal Waves will have the Abyssal Curses will have the reach to kill your opponent, potentially. Also, I just put this here as well. If you get them low enough, like if you do it 3 times in the Renethor deck, 5 health might literally be the lowest health minion on the board, so your Barrel of Sludges may be able to kill your opponent down from there. I think that's a mean dream, though. I don't think that'll happen. I think it'll be a completely separate package. I think you'll have a Control Excavation package, which will have, very similar to the Control Warlock now, you'll have Sargarius, you'll have the 5-drop spell that is insane value, and you will just try and stay alive until you can start bouncing the snake back, and it's basically going to be like a combo deck. You're going to play like Snake Brewmaster. Then you're going to, next turn Snake Brewmaster. If there's any way to discount these as well, you'll do that. I think this could be a really scary archetype that just doesn't care about your armor, doesn't care. It will just steal your health, and it makes you... Like, it puts you further and further away from dying. It's like such a good control option. I can't, emphasize this more. This is insane, this card. It could truly be like the meta-defining card. Anyway, that's going to do it for the Warlock reveals. I think that, as I said, the Toxic package, I think is going to be pretty low down on the scale. This Snake package, though, with the Control Warlock, I think might elevate it into the toppest tier of decks. And we have kind of a good idea of what the toppest tier is of decks right now. The Masters Tours are going to be going on today and tomorrow, I believe, for autumn. And not many people brought Control Warlock. I think it kind of shows it's around the tier 3 state right now. This might be enough to elevate it certainly into the tier 2 states. Maybe it'll sneak into tier 1, but we'll have to see. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, why not, stay tuned for eventual Hunter reveal that will come out in the next week or so. And then, I can't remember who is meant to be coming up again today, but there's another card reveal today. If it all comes out today, I will put up a video later. Alright, goodbye.